Welcome to KCXU 92.7 FM on your dial, San Jose, California.
Welcome to our one-hour weekly radio town hall series with discussing the COVID-19 pandemic with Santa Clara County Supervisor Dave Cortese for District 3, and we'll introduce him shortly. First, my name is Belinda. I'll be your host for today's radio town hall meeting, and I, of course, like you, am sheltering in place and working from home, and believe it or not, we're broadcasting as we did last week from my home in Almaden Valley, which is kind of exciting and neat. So, going forward, you're listening to KCXU LP 92.7 FM radio, and we're a nonprofit community radio station here in San Jose, California, and amplifies diverse voices by providing local opportunities to tell stories and share experiences and strengthen our connections to each other in the community. So I'm happy to be a part of this broadcast and a part of the station. And our radio call letters to explain KCXU LP, the initials LP refer to as low power, which is why some of you may be listening to our broadcast on our website, which is kcxucovid19.org, and we encourage you to do that if you are getting a low signal. Once again, kcxucovid19.org. You'll click on Radio Town Hall Live, and you'll be able to follow us, and it'll be rebroadcast throughout the next week or so, multiple times during the day, so that you can get your information and keep in touch with us. And to contact us by phone to call into today's program, the number is 408-634-8086. Once again, 408-634-8086. Or you can text, which is another number, and that's 408-480-7833. Once again, 408-480-7833 for text messages only. And today's been another busy week in the news, and we would like to introduce Supervisor Dave Cortese, who I'm proud to say that we share something in common. We're both local natives, local San Joseans, so that's interesting. But by way of his professional career, Supervisor Cortese has served for over a decade with 4 years as board president for the County of Santa Clara. And before joining the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, he served 8 years as a San Jose City Council member and 2 years as vice mayor. He was a trustee for the San Jose Eastside Union High School District for 8 years, and his lifelong dedication to public service and being a champion for the community has translated to an impressive record of public service. So welcome, Supervisor Dave Cortese. It's good to have you back, and at our radio town hall meeting, we'd like to thank you for your leadership. And before we begin, I just wanted to ask you how you're doing in these days of all the changes of the COVID-19 pandemic. How are you and your family doing?
Well, I'm doing fine. My family's doing fine, and I think, as we've discussed before, I have a large extended family here. My grandfather was an immigrant to this country on my paternal side, and I have a large maternal side of the family as well. So we're happy that thus far everybody in the along the bloodlines is healthy. We have friends who suffered some grief, and we've certainly had some, extended family members that have experienced, some issues with COVID health-wise. And, that's always the first thing that all of us are trying to account for every day, take inventory every day. How is the family? How are our relatives overall? So I hope yours are well too. And, the rest of it for me is just this, the workload and all the activity right now, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I hope your family is well too, Belinda. And I thank you and Manu for hosting us here today.
Oh, you're welcome. It's our pleasure. And there are some questions that we've received in advance. So before we get to those questions from our constituents, from our listeners, we'd like to ask you, what is new on the COVID-19 pandemic front, and what do Santa Clara County residents need to know?
Well, there's always a little bit of good news, it seems, and not so good news. In some respects, every day seems to be like that these days, at least for the past 7 weeks. And maybe that's just life. But we're happy to one degree that our office has helped donate over 15,000 masks, the N95 masks, which are used by our medical workers, along with a whole bunch of gowns, gloves, and mattresses for our unhoused community. There's a lot of advocates out there trying to help and address the needs of the 8,000 who are unsheltered in our community right now who are homeless. We've also raised directly $13,000 for protective equipment for Valley Medical Center Foundation. If people are interested in helping out with that, they can easily donate, and there's a website. We could probably get to that later, but there's a way to do that online, of course. And probably the most important thing that's happened the last few days is that the county's ramping up its COVID-19 testing, thanks to some public-private partnerships. A couple of them are focused on high-risk populations in specific communities. For example, not far from where I live, there's a new testing site at James Lick High School in San Jose, right along White and Elm Rock. And also Christopher High School in Gilroy is another testing site that has opened up. Those both are public-private partnerships. The county, the school district, and a private provider are providing about 132 tests a day at those sites. And then there's another testing site that opened up at the Police Activities League Stadium in San Jose, which is, I think a lot of people know where that is, but it's where you see the lit up fields at night, right near where 101 and 680 cross each other. You enter that facility through a side street off of King Road, but it's Police Activities League, and right at the stadium facility there.
Is that Emma Push Park?
No, but it's close. It's close by. The P&L.
Off 280 on the freeway, right? You can see it when you go over 280, 85 or something.
Exactly. Emma Push would be on one side. You could see the Emma Push Park because they have gardens. They have vegetable gardens.
Yes.
That's on one side of the freeway. If you happen to be traveling on the south side of the overpass, if you're on the north side of the overpass, you'll oftentimes see stadium lights, and those stadium lights are where the testing facility is at Police Activities League Stadium. And if you want information on how to get to any of those places, either call my office at 408-299-5030. That's the office of Dave Cortese. Or there's a great website we've talked about before. It's at SCCGOV. I'm sorry. Scratch that. If you have your pen out, it's SCCPHD, like Public Health Department.org.
Right.
SCCPHD.org. There you can get an extensive list of testing sites, including the three I just mentioned, but a lot more also. We're happy.
Supervisor I'm sorry to interrupt, Supervisor Cortese. Just to let you know that we have those two bits of information: your phone number for your office and the Santa Clara County Public Health Department website on our KCXU COVID19.org website. So if people go there, they'll get the information for you and both the link to Public Health Department locations. Now, regarding the testing, are we able to, how does one, if they're concerned, if they have a loved one or they themselves are not feeling well, how do they need a doctor's note to go to the testing site? How does that work?
Yeah, generally you should have a doctor's referral. Some of the testing sites, for example, the one at the fairgrounds, at the county fairgrounds, which is operated by a company called Verily, it simply requires you to sign up online, and then you can just drive in, and you don't even have to get out of your car there at the fairgrounds. But preferably people should be talking to their doctor first, because it's important to go over the common, to see if you actually have some of the common symptoms. There's a variety of them, and sometimes you could have just two of these symptoms and you may need to be tested, and other times you don't. And it's really important to try to talk to a doctor first. In addition, you want to do that by phone. Don't just walk into the doctor's office, because if you are contagious, they're not, people in the waiting room aren't going to be prepared to distance from you. It's going to be a problem. So call your doctor, try to get a referral. If that doesn't work, you can go to one of these websites we're talking about and get clear instructions on how to proceed. either mine, which is supervisorcortese.org, or the KCXU website, which you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're over 50 and you have symptoms, fever, cough, shortness of breath, or even sore throat, tiredness, muscle or body aches, headaches, confusion, loss of sense of taste or smell, they're now saying if you have any two of those and they're lingering and they're severe, you should be calling your doctor right away, especially if you're over 50.
Right, and chills too. They were saying body aches, chills. So any two of those, and those are listed on the public health department site as well, I would imagine.
Yes, and if you want to if you don't like going to websites and you're experiencing these problems right now and you're listening to this town hall, one of the things you could do is dial this toll-free number. This is the Santa Clara Valley Medical Center hotline. It's 1-888-334-1000.
Yes, right.
888-334-1000. It just asks to speak to an advice nurse. Don't go down there. Don't go to the emergency room or urgent care without an appointment. Call that number first, and they'll tell you what to do. And that way you'll be protecting, not only others, but your own family and friends, especially if somebody needs to take you down there.
Very good. Okay. And just as a station ID, you're listening to KCXU LTFM on your radio dial. We're 92.7, and we have Supervisor Dave Cortese on the line. If you'd like to speak with him, you can call him at 408-634-8086 or text 408-480-7833 to ask your questions regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. And if he doesn't know, he'll be sure and find answers for you, right, Supervisor Cortese?
Exactly right. I never claim to have all the answers, and usually at least one member of the audience can stump me on something, but we can find out for you tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. So that's easy.
Okay, very good. Okay, now for Santa Clara County residents, we've talked about testing, we've talked about locations, symptoms, etc. And we're according to national and local or state news, we're going into a phase 2 program. What does that mean for us in Santa Clara County?
Would you repeat that for me again regarding the state?
Yes. So the federal and state leaders, our Governor Newsom announced that we're going into a phase 2, and I wanted to know for Santa Clara County residents, those of us who stayed and sheltered in place and who may be working from home and or looking forward to our office or business opening up again that we can go back to work. What do we have to look forward to? I know it's a slow rollout they're talking about, but how realistic is that for our county? We're sheltering in place, we know, until the end of May. So June 1st, we might be looking at a different type of San Jose or Silicon Valley.
I think for sure we'll be looking at some differences and changes come June 1st. What the governor has said in the meanwhile is that as early as tomorrow, he will allow, under the statewide orders, counties, especially rural counties, to open up, certain types of businesses so long as they follow strict guidelines, in terms of how they do that. I think what he's really saying is, look, in some very rural places, we just don't have the human compaction, the population and the proximity of people in congregate facilities or congregate situations where we need to worry about the risk as much as we do in metropolitan areas like the Bay Area or San Diego or Los Angeles, for example. So he's trying to allow some flexibility for some of these counties to tailor their own approach. Now, they've got to be very, very careful with that because as we saw just in the last 24 hours here in Santa Clara County, we have 5 more deaths and 17 more cases. So those are not extraordinarily high numbers like we've seen in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
But, those 5 deaths are significant. Those are deaths that we would not have other than for COVID, if it were not for COVID. So when you keep adding these numbers up, and you're getting into over 300 going on 400 deaths just in the last 7 weeks in the Bay Area, it's very evident to the governor that many places and many businesses like restaurants or salons or lounges or other kinds of businesses where people are normally put in close proximity to each other are either going to have to radically change the way they do business, or they're just going to have to stay shut down for a while. But he's going to allow some flexibility, and we'll see what that looks like tomorrow. I believe he'll make an announcement tomorrow.
Okay, at his 12 o'clock briefing that he does.
Yes.
Yeah, that's always very interesting to listen to. Okay, so we have a text message that came in from Gina in South San Jose, and she's asking about police presence and activity and something about speeding or speeders on Highway 85. And I guess, so just not only answering her question, but how is the police department doing? How are they faring in all of this in our COVID response?
So far, the police department and the sheriff's department have not had significant numbers of COVID positive or infections, which is really important. Obviously, we don't want to lose the police force or the sheriff's deputies or firefighters for that matter. There have been some cases where we've had clusters of infection break out in firehouses, but they've stayed contained within those groups. As most people know, those firefighter cohorts live together, and they don't, typically intermingle with with their peers in other fire stations. So one good thing is at least the virus is staying contained, in those firehouses where it was found. As far as, speeding, traffic, crime, property crimes or theft crimes, if you're seeing more of that, I think it's less related to COVID as it is to just, a general challenge, especially in San Jose. You said it was South San Jose. San Jose's police department has been challenged with the understaffing of about 400 to 500 officers for the last 5 years now, and they have had some issues with trying to respond quickly to property crimes. But generally speaking, crime is down. They say that the incidence of crime is down about 60% in some, in most areas of San Jose. So feel free to let us know if you see a trend out there. If you're a listener like the one from South San Jose, let's suppose there's loitering, which shouldn't be happening right now, of course. Let's suppose there's raucous parties, which shouldn't be happening right now because people are supposed to be sheltering. You can always call my office at 408-299-5030, and there is a hotline we can give you, or we can call it for you if you're unwilling to do it yourself, and make sure that public safety goes out there and breaks that up, or checks it out, or at least warns people. But violating these orders in many cases is actually a misdemeanor, so the police will enforce it if they're pressed to do so. Okay,
very good. That's good to know, and I'm glad that that the crime activity is down. That's always a good sign, of course. Okay, so I have another question from Fatima on the east side, and she's wondering, she has a small business, a hair salon, and she's wondering when she can get back to work. And you were saying just minutes ago that looks like it'll have to be business different than usual.
Yeah, I hope soon, because I need a haircut myself. And I know there's a lot of other people like me. So
true.
It is, I think, if it's any consolation, Fatima, I think that the people who maybe miss the most right now are, salons, hairstylists, and barbers. It's something a lot of us, sort of take for granted. And, okay, I have an appointment, I'll get down there however often we go. And all of a sudden you can't do that. And it's not something most people are willing to try to do themselves. So we hope that will change. I'm interested in working with people who own salons and stylists, barbers, to try to better understand, whether they think they could help us write some rules that might dramatically reduce the risk. Maybe it's that you can only have one person in the shop at a time and nobody's sitting around. That's very contrary to how we're used to doing it. I usually learn more about what's going on in the neighborhood by going down to get my hair cut because I sit around and talk to everybody. But,
True.
we might not be able to do that for a while, and we may have to have, one person enter at a time, maybe different types of sanitization in terms of, sterilizing things, sanitizing things. That may require appointments to be spread out so that people can clean their shop literally after every cut. They might have to charge a little more for it, and maybe people would pay for that. I don't know, but I just want Fatima and others listening to know that if you're in that business and you want to get together with some of your colleagues or competitors, and I'd be willing to, have a Zoom call or a conference call and figure out together, how we could submit maybe some protocols and some rules to the public health officer for her to consider that might help open things up sooner rather than later. Because again, it's about as close to an essential activity as you could get for a lot of people.
Sure.
But it's just unfortunate that the traditional business model generally puts so many people close together, including, the hairstylist and the client. So we've got to figure that out.
Okay, and I have, excuse me, a message from a caller that says, is there any current data on hotspots in Santa Clara County? This is from Anna in San Jose. Any current data where hotspots are located in Santa Clara? I guess it means countywide in San Jose.
Anna, this is a great question you're asking about hotspots in San Jose or Santa Clara County. You can go to the Public Health Department's website, and you will get some data there that's demographic, by ethnicity, and also city by city. I have, and that website is sccphd.org. I will tell you, though, that I have been upset that the Public Health Department and the County Executive's Office have not put more detailed information out about where clusters are. I think that if they're going to tell us to avoid others that are infected, to avoid contact, then they should be telling us if there are hot spots that we should be avoiding. It's as simple as that. I don't want to hurt anyone's neighborhood or anyone's local 7-Eleven store, but if there's been 24 cases around a certain block or a certain shop,
right?
I think we're all better off to avoid it for 2 weeks so things can calm down and make less people sick. So I've been pushing really hard to get that data. Some of the other counties do a better job of that, especially in Southern California, and I'll keep pushing really hard. Every once in a while, of course, sadly, we get a breakout in an outbreak, I should say, in a nursing home or a fire station or someplace like that, and you can kind of figure out where that is. But so like I said, unfortunately, the county is not so far putting out data on a block by block basis, and I think we should.
Okay, very good. And getting back to Fatima, that was a good question from Rose. And Fatima's questions about small business opening up a hair salon, and your idea of creating some sort of a conversation around protocols, and they would know that's a great idea. But I'm wondering, you referred to the near distant future. How, just a reality check, what are we looking at in terms of being in this new normal of protecting ourselves from possible outbreak in the future? Is it 6 months, 1 year? What do you think? And what are you told, Supervisor Cortese, about that?
Well, as recently as yesterday at the Board of Supervisors meeting, we were told that it would be optimistic to think that there'd be either antibody testing or a vaccine even in 18 months, that it might be 2 years, it might be 2 cycles of this. Think of flu cycles, where you have the flu and then it comes back seasonally year over year. The difference with the flu is they can usually put a vaccine together the first year, that starts to slow everything down dramatically the second year, and then they adjust the vaccine again for the third year, and pretty soon you kind of have it under control. Here, they're really not sure how to put the vaccine together. I'm talking about the medical professionals. That's not just in our county, that's worldwide. And so as long as there is no vaccine and there hasn't been an antibody test that will tell you if you've had the virus or not, and that's been very delayed. Therefore, no testing of that nature, no vaccines. The fact of the matter is that we're kind of sheltering, limiting our activities, changing our business models, as you were just alluding to. We're having this conversation about new ways to do business, new protocols, new ways to enter and exit the barbershop. This is all what we have to look forward to for the next few months if we want to get the economy going again. I think we're gonna have to be willing to change our game. Right. It's hard. Change is always hard. I don't want to do it. It's unfair. We're all victims here. We're all victims because we had a beautiful life 8 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago. None of this was happening. And now all of a sudden we're being told you might have to, change the way you do business as a customer and as a business person. But the worst problem is, Belinda, that each business comes with its own set of challenges when you're trying to have a conversation about protocols. Think of dentists, for example. That's just a very complex thing to try to figure out. You can have one door in, one door out, but think about what happens in a dentist office, and the dentist will be the first to tell you they're extremely vulnerable to passing on the virus. I mean, the virus comes from saliva.
Yeah.
Basically, and that's what they're dealing with. Okay, they're dealing with, having to work on people's teeth in your mouth. So everything from not just how you walk in the door and how you exit, but how do you deal with people and protect them well enough? Even the receptionist, as people are coming in and out, and you have what they call aerosols. You have the virus essentially in the air. In every hygienic room in the dentist office. You've got to get rid of that virus before the next customer comes in, and you don't even know who had it because people come in without symptoms. So that's a lot more complicated.
That is.
Than a barber or a hairstylist, and that's a lot more complicated than a construction site. On a construction site, you can just tell people, stay 6 to 10 feet apart, don't talk to anybody, hammer your own nails, come in the gate, go out the gate, don't have lunch with anybody, take your temperature every day. These are things that don't help you that much at a dentist's office. And once again, I mean, who wants to go without dental care? It's critical,
Right. Or
it's very critical.
True. Or I would imagine if you're like an optometrist, you have to deal with people very closely, looking at their eyes, checking their eyes, making sure the glasses fit, et cetera, et cetera. And so you're going to have close contact there too. There's a lot of businesses that now that you really think about it, can impact, or have impacted our lives that we just never really thought much about before. Some
of the most COVID. Excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you off. Some of the most routine, professional and social visits that we're used to can actually be the most risky now. And that's what's also hard for people to grasp. I mean, what could be more routine than going to a high school basketball game or a football game or watching your kid play Little League? That's that's the American way, and to think that just going and sitting next to 25 other people in the grandstand, at your kid's Little League game, can suddenly result in an outbreak or a cluster of 25 infections. Or if grandma's there, she might be particularly vulnerable, or someone with asthma or someone with diabetes,
right,
to actually dying from that. And who would think that that's a risky endeavor? And that's why people are frustrated. I know people are frustrated because they're thinking, I want my Little League games back. I want my soccer back. I want my kids to have their activities back. And, you know, the virus, like I said, has victimized all of us. And it's even made your Board of Supervisors relatively powerless because, as I've said before, the state has empowered the public health official with this radical authority, and she gets to tell all of us what to do, even the elected officials.
Oh, Dr. Sarah Cody.
That's her. She is in charge of just about everybody's life, you know, and not just the 2 million people here, but obviously she's influencing all the public health officials in the Bay Area, which is 7 million people. And I think the governor's watching what she does very closely, which means she's influencing 40 million people. That's a lot of authority for one person, and I'm sure it's a big burden on her shoulders.
Wow, that's a new way to look at it too. Okay, let me let you know that you're listening to KCXU LP FM 92.7, and thank you for listening. We're with Supervisor Dave Cortese, District 3 Supervisor, who's giving us information on COVID-19 and the pandemic in Santa Clara County, and we're going to be rebroadcasting this throughout the week. So if you need to get a hold of Supervisor Cortese, you can reach him at his office, and his local line is 408-299-5030, and he'll be able to answer questions, or someone on his staff that you may have if you missed something in the radio town hall that we're doing now. It'll also be on KCXUCovid19.org website, and just click on Radio Town Hall Live in the left-hand corner. If you'd like to reach us today, you can call us at 408-634-8086. Once again, 408-634-8086, or text a question to Supervisor Cortese at 408-480-7833. Once again, for text messages only, 408-480-7833. And we thank you for that. We're on the air with Supervisor Cortese, and let's take another question. This is regarding from Antonio in downtown San Jose, meat shortage. He is concerned about the meat shortage. Apparently, at some local stores, there is, not to create a panic or anything, but I guess that's a concern now, that the shortages in what you can buy at the meat counter are different these days for some stores. Can you speak to that, Supervisor Cortese?
Yes, I can. It is the meat shortage is real. It is a supply chain issue, and it's not because there's been so much demand for meat that we're running out of it. It's because there has been outbreaks of COVID-19 in some of the packing plants. You know, what we used to call, well, let's just call them meat packing plants.
Yeah.
And because of that, you know, they have to do the same thing. If there's an outbreak and you have 20 loyal employees in that meat packing house that are getting, you know, tons and tons of meat, or pounds of it and tons of it out every day, and 15 out of 20 of them get infected, you're basically shut down. And
right,
you know, the inspectors are going to come in and shut you down. That's a business that's literally regulated daily by health inspectors. And, you know, that's been happening, unfortunately, across the country, that it's shut down some pretty big meat packing operations throughout the country. So as a result, all of a sudden, you know, you stop seeing meat in your grocery store, at the meat counter. And we aren't sure how long that's going to continue. But again, I want to make it clear, that's not because of government regulation. That's not because the health official has said no meat. You know, it's because this is how vicious this virus is. You know, 2 weeks ago we didn't have this problem, and now all of a sudden, you know, you've got massive clusters, you know, going on in meat packing plants, and enough to, you know, to really scare people at the federal, state, and local level in terms of how can those meat packing operations operate? What kind of protocols do they have to operate under, you know, to be safe? Obviously, nobody wants infected meat coming out to the stores, and I'm not saying it is, but I'm telling you that right at this point, the problem is the workers themselves are are out of commission.
Right.
They're out on sick leave, and if they're out on sick leave, you're just not going to see meat going onto freight cars and getting shipped out here.
Correct. And talking about the hotspots, that was just ironic. That was a hotspot for them. It's unfortunate, and you're right. They just for, I guess, lots of reasons, they weren't protected, and on and on. And so, yeah, there's a shortage there. But from what I understand, reading the newspaper, that chicken and fish and everything else is great. So if you can't get your favorite steak maybe right now, or ribs or something, you can always get something else. And then, that will be, I'm sure, they're taking steps to rectify that and to make sure everyone's healthy and back on board soon.
My friends down at the Zen Center are all vegetarian. They'll be very happy that there's a limit on meat production right now. But, it's just like air quality is better. The roads are not congested, and there's a lot of interesting things going on that we're learning about ourselves. But
True.
It's still tragic that we're having to see so many people go through so much grief and victimized, because what we're learning, or what is happening around us, whether it's good or bad, as I said at the outset of this program, is really caused by a very vicious pandemic right now, and it's not to be taken lightly.
Right, agreed. And this is from Jasenia. This is a call that came through. She said she was very happy to hear that the drive-ins are now open, or the Capitol Drive-In in San Jose is going to open up, and which I thought was very exciting too when I read that in the paper today. And she wanted to know if they're open, if there's any, I guess the protocols they said were just to keep your mask on, and you could use their restrooms and so on. But the snack shacks were closed, I guess, and so bring your own snacks to the drive-in. But what do you think of that, Supervisor Cortese? That's kind of good news. That
is kind of good news. And I it's a good thing. It really is a good thing in my opinion. I'm just going to give you my opinion. When I'll date myself, when we were younger and you went to a drive-in, you had to grab a speaker that was hooked onto a wire that was
true.
Full, and you put it inside your car and roll the window up, and you touched a lot of stuff that other people were touching, But true. Now, it's you turn your radio on, you get the sound. You don't really have to get out of your car. You can bring your own popcorn if you want, and it sounds like they have enough protocols. Again, it's a pretty easy business to put protocols in place, right? Stay in your car, wear a mask.
True.
Get rid of the people in the car next to you. They keep the cars 10 feet apart, which is pretty good. That's
great.
At least one parking space separate from each other, so people aren't going to get out of their cars and just bump into each other. And
Sure.
They're keeping the restrooms open, but they're not keeping anything else open. So bring your sanitizer with you if you go. Make sure you're using it, and stay in your own car and just get in and get out and go home. And it's a good way for people to lose some of the cabin fever. As much as we love our homes, we need to get out.
Absolutely. And our children.
Our children need to get out. They need entertainment. We don't want to give that up. And I commend, the drive-ins for figuring out a way to do business, that fits within the rules and keeps people safe and healthy. But remember, the public has to play by the rules. The quickest way to see the drive-ins shut down again is just like the meatpacking plants. If people go there and they, and they just flaunt the rules and they start standing around, having a beer with each other in the parking lot, and people start getting sick, next thing you know, there's not going to be any more drive-ins again, because the public health officer is not going to go for that. So all of this requires the cooperation of people in this community, one neighbor at a time. The public health official is not saving us. We're either saving ourselves or we're not.
Mm-hmm. Right. By paying attention and following the rules and being respectful of one another, wearing your mask, social distancing. Yeah, I agree. I think, from what I've seen in my, small view of the world over here, I've seen people that are really taking it pretty seriously. So that's good. I haven't heard or seen or read anything about people, except for, I guess, on really warm days when they go to the beach. But even then, I think it sounds like what people are doing is trying to keep social distancing 6 feet apart. But I know that they've closed the beaches and the parks for those reasons, so that people aren't tempted to go and hang out in mass. And that's smart, because we do want to err on the side of caution, as you said earlier, keeping with the protocols that we can get out of this faster if we're doing this now, doing the hard work now.
Yes, whatever progress we've made, and certainly made some, we've certainly, even as tragic as the deaths are that we've had, and the number of infections that we've had, and the number of people that have suffered in ICU units, it is still a fraction of what we would have had people not done what you just said, Belinda, had people not cooperated. And the way we're going to get out of it, yes, we're going to have new protocols. We're going to learn to do things different. We're going to learn to go to the drive-in 10 feet apart. But we're also going to beat this by abiding, by complying, by cooperating with what the medical experts are telling us to do, because they're really the only ones that know how to sort of starve this virus out. This virus can't, it can't function very well without victims, to jump to. Think of it almost like a parasite, right?
Sure.
If it can't get from one person to another, then it has nowhere to go. So this is what we need to do, is disrupt that ability of the virus to hopscotch around from person to person. And that's the only reason the public health official keeps doing the shelter stuff, because she wants us, to put a barrier between this virus's ability to get to us or not.
Right. And so, Supervisor Cortese, is it realistic that you think things will open up for us in Santa Clara County on June 1st, or do you think we may get another request to stay in shelter in place for another 30 days? What are you kind of hearing in your circles?
I'm not hearing a lot, because Sarah Cody doesn't say a lot about that. Yesterday at the Board of Supervisors meeting, she said that, even her own family members are asking her, what is the date? What is the date? And she says, I don't know. So,
Okay.
So I think she really doesn't know. And I don't think she really has a target, but we do have indicators, and the indicators are, when the incidence of infection flattens out, and we're close to that, it's really slowed down a lot. When we have testing available to everyone who needs it, and we're getting closer to that, as I said earlier on the show tonight, we've opened up a few more testing centers, and we'll keep opening them up. When we know that we have a flattening of the use of ICU beds, and they're starting to free up those beds, so we aren't going to get overrun by a surge, then I think she's going to feel a lot more aggressive about creating some more opportunities for businesses to open, whether they're hair salons, or whether they're more child care centers, or whether maybe even schools. Maybe the rule is going to be you can have schools open, but you cannot, you have to keep children in separate cohorts and separate groups of 15 to 30, so that they're not, cross-contaminating, so to speak, in terms of transmission. My belief is this: by June 1st, there's going to be, if we continue to do the good work we do as a community, keeping this curve flat, then I think the public health officer is going to start looking at backing us off of shelter in place. And remember how we got here. We started off, and she said, infections and deaths are starting to happen here. We need to ban groups over 1,000. And then a few days later, she said we need to reduce that to 100 because the infections are still spiking. And then she said 10. And then she said 0. And we've talked about this before. I think by June 1st, she's going to be seriously looking at how do we start ratcheting that back the other way? How do we say now we can have 10 in a room, or now we can have 100 in a room, and then eventually we'll get back to 1,000 and more than 1,000. And the reason for that is because they need to see what happens as they open things back up, in an incremental way. That's my belief. I always believe, if you think of it as somebody who's taken a deep hike into the woods, and, if they go left, they could get lost. If they go right, they could get lost. If they keep going deeper into the woods, they could get lost. But if they turn around and just retrace their steps back the way they came, they won't get lost. They'll end up coming back home. And I think I believe that's what she will do starting June 1st, is she's going to start bringing us, back down the same path we came, and start increasing the number of people that can group up together, which would mean no more shelter in place. And then, at the same time, opening up some businesses that are probably very low risk to open up right now. Car dealers, if you take that example, we're already bringing our cars to car dealers for repairs. We've been doing that for the last 7 weeks. How much more of a leap of faith is it to say that you can also walk around in the showroom under certain conditions? Maybe there shouldn't be more than 10 people in a showroom at a time, maybe 5. I don't know. The car dealers need to help us figure that out and help.
It's so interesting. Yes, you're right. It's every sector of the community. I have 3 questions from Jeffrey, Beth, and Barb, and let me give them to you. So you can answer these. Okay, Jeffrey from San Martin is asking about. He says, how is our Santa Clara County economy status doing compared to other California counties? To other 57 California counties. Yeah, he's right. We have 58 counties in California.
Well, as you know, we generally do better by far than any of the other 57 counties on a per capita basis. We have the highest productivity per person, per capita of any county in the world. And we're always in the top 3 in the world of metropolitan areas in terms of per capita economic production. So that's the good news. That means we're probably still doing better than a lot of counties in California because they've all been sheltering. The bad news is they used to have a saying when I was a kid, the bigger you are, the harder you fall. And, the problem is that when you go to 30% unemployment in a robust economy like this, where you employ virtually 100% of your population, normally your working population, 30% unemployment is huge. We've already lost over 200,000 jobs or more have already been lost in Silicon Valley.
Oh my gosh!
Just in 7 weeks. So it's hard to compare. If you look at Colusa County or Stanislaus County or Tuolumne County, how do you even compare us to them? They had 20% unemployment before this started, and they're devastated, and we're starting to be devastated. The big impact is going to be not only on, employment, but believe it or not, on the county and the cities themselves. We have 15 cities in Santa Clara County, as well as our county government. The county's budget last year was $8 billion with the fees. The county has 22,000 employees, 40 departments and agencies. It is oftentimes the largest employer in Silicon Valley on any given day, depending on how the tech sector is doing. We're already facing a $450 million deficit, almost $500 million for this coming year, just because of COVID. So then what happens? How do we protect those public sector jobs, those county jobs? How do we deliver services? How do we provide help for our community-based partners? How do cities pay for police officers and firefighters?
Right.
This is where it starts to get scary, in addition to the hardship on the people who are unemployed. So it is shaping up as a perfect storm, and it's not going to be fun for any of us, including those of us in elective office who are trying to balance these budgets.
Okay. Yeah, and we just have a few minutes left, just a few. So let's. I want to comment on these, but I'm not going to. But let's see. Beth is asking about Supervisor Cortese. What do you think about the resurgence in Santa Clara? I guess maybe she means resurgence in cases of COVID-19. I'm not sure. She just says, "What do you think about the resurgence in Santa Clara?" She's from San Jose.
And I'm taking your cue to give shorter answers.
Yes, thank you.
I give long answers. I'm sorry, but
no, it's good. Thank you.
I know if you go on the Public Health Department website, sccphd.org, you'll see a city-by-city set of data or statistics. And there have been some surges in certain areas, and I do think City of Santa Clara may be one of those. But also because a big surge has been in nursing homes. And if those happen to be those clusters happen to happen in a certain city like Santa Clara or any other city, Sunnyvale, Milpitas, whatever, you're going to see a pretty good surge in their overall numbers. So
right.
What I can tell you is right now the biggest percentage of surge that we've been seeing is suddenly with the older population, particularly those people who are in congregate care.
Right. Okay. And thank you. And Barb has our final question of the night. She's asking about she's in the New Almaden, New Almaden area, and she's asking if people are having a barbecue of house parties or of 10 or more, do they care?
Yeah.
And that we answered that last week too. You answered that last week, Supervisor Cortese, in just 1 minute that we have left on the clock here.
Yes. First of all, I love you all in New Almaden. What a great little community that is. But I hate to tell you that under the current orders, shelter in place means only your family. You can't even have a barbecue or a dinner party with 10 other people, even if you know them well. That's the law right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they will enforce it, if you're reported. So hang in there. Keep the barbecue bit covered until June 1st or until the public health officer says we can start, having backyard barbecues again. And I hope that comes by June 1st because I got a birthday shortly after that. I would certainly love to be among you celebrating.
Oh, happy birthday, Supervisor Cortese. Happy birthday. Okay, well, we want to thank you so much for all of those quick responses. I know it's hard to get it all in. We really need another hour. We're going to give the website for Supervisor Cortese, sccgov.org. And that's Santa Clara County website. So your website is supervisorcortese.org. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
That's
very
correct.
good. And then your direct line is 408-299-5030. If anyone wants to call, again, if you reach out to us on our website, we'll give you all of Supervisor Cortese's information and more at KCXUcovid19.org. And if you want to hear the radio program, the town hall, again, that we just completed last week or the week before, you certainly can. You just tap on Radio Town Hall Live. We've just got a few minutes left, Supervisor Cortese. We'd like to end on a happy note, as you know, and we'd like to ask you what's making you happy this week.
What's making me happy is the beautiful weather. It strikes me as I finish a long day like this and go out sometimes for a walk around sunset, that there's one thing the virus can't take away, and it's this beautiful California weather, beautiful California sunsets, and just a beautiful California atmosphere out there. So I hope, I know you aren't asking me a COVID question, but that makes me very, very happy, and I hope other people enjoy it as well.
Oh, that's lovely. Yes, and you're right. And in California, we're lucky, we're blessed to have such beautiful weather most of the time, most of the year. So that's good. And okay, thank you, Supervisor Cortese. Thank you for being part of our live radio town hall program. I want to tell you what's making me happy, and it's this beautiful poem by Nancy Langstock Quack-Hour from Pleasanton. It was in the newspaper, and it's called 2020 Vision. I'm going to read this poem to you, and it's a beautiful creative piece that this woman did, and I don't know her, but I just want to read it to you. It's beautiful. It's called 2020 Vision. No one could predict the immeasurable fear provoked by a virus that that's the same name as beer. A headache, a fever, a cough, and a sneeze, an invisible bug brought the world to its knees. The life as we knew it is no longer there. The streets are deserted and the shelves are quite bare. The stadiums are silent, all sports are on hold. The Olympics are postponed, no competing for gold. The theaters are empty, the stage lights are dim. Bars and restaurants are shut down, and so is the gym. The stores have all shuttered, malls now ghostly halls. A walk in the park requires new protocols. Once bustling cities now contain empty squares, all places of worship, they don't have a prayer. Vacations are canceled, all business trips seized. The borders between countries are strictly policed. All meetings are taboo, all classes dismissed. Things taken for granted no longer exist. No weddings, no funerals, no birthdays, no proms. Graduations, celebrations could all cause us harm. Millions lost livelihoods just overnight. Uncertainty looms with no ending in sight. Our arms remain empty, too dangerous to hug. So near yet so far from the ones that we love. So many have suffered, so many have died. Our anxieties and fears have all amplified. But the air is much cleaner. There are fewer car fumes. Smokestacks from factories have paused spewing plumes. Less traffic on freeways, less cruise ships on seas. The planet's pollution is starting to ease. The beaches have less trash. The sky's turning bluer. Our rivers and oceans are less of a sewer. We've been forced to slow down and examine our lives, spend time with our children, our husbands and wives. We value our friends and reach out to them more, including the neighbors that live right next door. A world once divided has now become one, to conquer an enemy that affects everyone. No sex, no religion, nationality, or race is immune from this virus that's invaded our space. It took Mother Nature to force us to pause and ponder the havoc our actions have caused. It gave us time to acknowledge our precious world's worth and decide what to do to preserve planet Earth. Perhaps this disease is our gift in disguise to make humans more humane and prevent our demise. And that's by Nancy Langstaff Krakauer from Pleasanton. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. Krakauer, Krakauer. But that's a beautiful, brilliant piece of art there, her poem. And we want to thank you from KCXU. We're going to hit our timelines now. Supervisor Cortese, are there any last thoughts you'd like to share?
No, just thank you very much. Thank you for sharing the beautiful poem, and thank you to all the listeners for checking in tonight and for doing your part.
Very good. Yes, thank you. And Supervisor Cortese, we look forward to working with you again. We also want to thank members of your staff, Tara, Siri Krishnan, and Kaylu Nguyen for their contributions in helping make this happen. And a shout out to our very own technical wizard, our founder of KCXU Radio, Chief Executive Officer Manu Martinez. Thank you, Manu, for all your hard work behind the scenes. And until then, we want to wish you all good health. Thank you for sheltering in place, wearing your mask in public, and being part of just being great citizens as we move through this extraordinary time in our history. This is Belinda Quesada, and we thank you for listening to KCXU LP 92.7 FM.
Welcome to KCXU 92.7 FM on your dial, San Jose, California.